Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all-new episode of PR from the Heart's Children's Book Spotlight Series, as we have proudly reached episode number 225. That is the 225th trolley stop here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series here at PR from the Heart, as we put the finishing touches, the beautiful bow, on the 6-year anniversary celebration of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. My name is John Masiulionis, the manager of PR from the Heart and the host of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. My faithful furry friend and forever companion, Little Forrest, is back home in San Diego. You see, the settings are a little bit different. We have returned to the Third Wheel podcast studio in the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, the City of Angels. We are specifically at their West LA location. And of course, when we have the opportunity to hop aboard the trolley and we travel to any city across this beautiful country of ours, you know that it is a very special trolley stop. We hope that all of you are continuing to do well, enjoying the start of your autumn, wherever you are, wherever you may be. This is a very special trolley stop, not just because we are closing out the 6-year anniversary celebration of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, but whenever we have the opportunity to be able to talk about a very special message. And over the course of the past 6 years, we've been very privileged, blessed, fortunate, and honored to be able to help walk home the children of the world. And people have communicated with us over the years and have asked me, like, what does that mean, John? Especially when our little ones are moving through challenging times in their lives, especially when they are moving through some form of grief, loss, and even death. And that can be one of the most difficult conversations to have with a little one, letting them know that their mother, their father, their grandmother, their grandfather, their brother, their sister has passed away. And not even just for children, but still for us as adults, as big kids. That can be a very difficult conversation to have. But when we take the time to be with our emotions and to feel our feelings along the way, and most importantly, keep our heart open, there is magic that can come from even the saddest experiences that we experience walking this earthly plane. And you might be saying, John, easier said than done. How do I keep my heart open? How do I inspire my little one to keep their heart open? Well, as we like to say here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, leave it to not only one, but 2 brand new children's books to help us see the way through, to keep our hearts open as we head into the final quarter of 2024, into the holiday season 2025 and beyond, because there are many more magical trolley stops to come for your child, for your little one, for your grandchild, for the child in your life, for the inner child within you. So again, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Amazon.com if that is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing. You can purchase your copies of See You on the Other Side, in addition to The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars. They are now available if Amazon.com, again, is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing. Be sure to leave a 5-star review for both of these empowering reads. That lets Rachel Montez Minor, it lets her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and as we like to say here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series, those who love great children's books. Now, we could probably deviate and not talk about the books, and we could talk about Rent. And if you're wondering, Rent, one of my favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite musicals of all time, but this is called the Children's Book Spotlight Series. So we're going to keep things on point and on purpose. So we hopped aboard the trolley from San Diego out here to Los Angeles because actress and children's author Rachel Montez Minor is joining us to close out our 6-year anniversary celebration of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Thank you for spending some quality time with us here in technically your neighborhood of Los Angeles.
Yes, we are in LA, but wait a minute. Did you know I'm in the Rent movie? Oh, wow.
Yep.
When you said that, I was like, wait, what?
Hence the Rent reference.
Oh, yes. I danced in the Rent movie musical. I also danced in the Producers movie musical. So when you said that, I was like, what?
That's right.
because now that I'm a children's book author, I rarely get to talk about the 20 years that I danced professionally.
We will be able to touch upon that during the course of this very special trolley stop. If you are new to our program, if you are entering into our neighborhood for the first point in time, or if you've been with us since day one of the many ways that you can pledge your support, not only for Rachel, but for us here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series and PR from the Heart, subscribe to our official YouTube channel, share this very special trolley stop that you are now enjoying. That is episode number 225 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series on your favorite social media platforms of your choosing. Join the more than 20,000 subscribers to our official YouTube channel. Thank you to all of you for your continued support of the program over the years. I've been looking forward to this episode for a long period of time. I know we had to do our part to coordinate schedules, but
Yes.
The good thing is that this is finally happening. The cool thing about the Children's Book Spotlight Series, Rachel, is that I'm very big on origin stories. The program is very big on origin stories. And whenever there is a children's book that comes to fruition, there's an origin story with the book, but there's obviously the origin story of the person who created the book. And it's very easy to be able to, plug into the good old Google machine and learn a little bit more about you, so to speak. But we always love to have a little bit more deeper dives here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. You're leading a very blessed life. We're going to touch upon so many different things, but I'd like to really start where it all began for you, because obviously you've been given a very important purpose, a very important mission. You are literally uplifting children, parents, families, countless people across the country and around the world, especially when it comes to connecting to their emotions, to their feelings, and remembering the love that's within them. And it takes a very brave soul to be able to do that, especially in this, crazy world that we live in today. Where did it really all begin for you? When did you know that a large part of your purpose and your mission, especially now as you're entering into the next phase of your life, was meant to not even just write amazing children's books, but to take the time to make the lives of children that much better?
Well, I like to say that it chose me. I never went to sit down at a desk and write a children's book. It all happened when I was pregnant with my daughter, and a series, like 10 children's books came to me in dreams, fully written. And I would wake up and I would see the title, and then the whole book would just download. And I've always slept with a journal by the bed. I've always had very deep dreams. It's been a gift of mine my whole life. So I just wrote all of these books down, and they were poems, really, because they were rhyming. And what was really interesting is when I got my first book deal, Sun, the Moon, and the Stars was the first one. My editor said to me, "Did you know this is the perfect amount of pages for a children's book in terms of the spreads we made and the stanzas?" No, I had no idea that there was even a magical number of pages for children's books. So it really chose me. It was destiny. And I like to say this is my daughter's message to the world, because it came through me when I was carrying her. And the one thing all of the books have in common is this message of our oneness and our connection to each other, our connection to the universe, but our connection to love, and that love never ends, and that we all love the same. We're all one. They're very unifying messages, I think, from the dream world.
I love how you're sharing that as well, too. And one of the things that I'm a huge proponent of, and you're very much walking your talk with this, is that you're utilizing your platform for the highest and greatest good. Now, with all due respect, all the celebrities out in Hollywood, some celebrities are not using their platforms for the highest and greatest good. It can be more about vanity, more about ego. Before we talk a little bit more about the books, why is that important to you? Not even as a children's author, but just being a kind person, doing the right thing. Those are things that are really lost in this day and age, because we still live in a society and more of a collective of what's in it for me before how may I be of service. So why is it important for you to be able to walk your talk, not even for the connection that you have with your little one, but to really be an inspiring role model in the way in which you are?
Well, before I was a writer, I was a dancer and performer, and I always have been an artist. And I have always believed that the artist's role is to uplift the collective consciousness. That is why we have been chosen to be artists. and it is such a gift to be able to inspire people. But I think the reason behind art is to uplift us collectively. We can be a mirror. We can elevate consciousness. So that's kind of always been behind everything I've done creatively. And I just like to say, whether it was dancing or singing or acting, or now it's writing, that really is the mission, is to uplift and show everyone that we are all one. Like, we are all in this together. Our humanity is what brings us together. So that's kind of always been my mission.
And I appreciate you taking the time to share that in the way in which you're sharing it, because especially during the course of the pandemic, we moved through a lot. Children moved through a lot. So just like the timing in which your first book came out, The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, just coming out at like that is, I'll use the expression, perfect and divine timing. So everything was coming into a beautiful synergy with that. One of the things as well, too, we always embrace our vulnerability here at the Children's Book Spotlight series. It would be very easy to look at your life and people see that you have a beautiful relationship, which we're going to be talking about, if that's okay with you. Your husband, Rickey, one of the most beloved musical composers, directors, producers in all of Hollywood. So it's very easy for people to look at your life and say, the Minors have it made. They have the golden toilets, as the expression goes, that everything is made in the shade for them. But through life, we move through polarity. We move through contrast. And even people who are celebrities, they move through the human experience as well, too. So we move through challenges, difficulties, obstacles, problems, stressors, troubles, worries, you name it. Specifically, whether it be through the process of creating these books or whether it be just throughout your life, what are some of the biggest challenges that you feel that you've experienced? And what were some of the things that have helped you to overcome those challenges and difficulties to get through to the other side of those?
Well, I mean, you just said COVID, so that was a really challenging time for our family because my best friend lost her husband. So, and he was a dear friend of mine as well. So you just said it, so that's instantly what popped into my head. COVID was really hard. And they had a 10-month-old at the time. So that was one of the hardest times. And I think what was so challenging about that too is because a lot of times you would reach out to community to get through stuff like that, but we had to kind of all be separated. So we got through that. Our daughter, my daughter helped me get through COVID. She was my reason to I had to get up. I'm so happy I had her during that time because she wasn't even 2 when it hit. And it gave us a reason to go forward and see the light in her and just, okay, we're going to stay home so we can protect our little family. And I think that children, the light they have around them, it can get us through anything. And it is interesting that I ended up writing children's books because I've always seen children like they're crystals. And if we just keep them in the right light, they can shine like rainbows and show us all the way. I just think they're magical.
They are, and it's very fitting as well that your husband Rickey is so connected to music because there's something when we're moving through a challenge or a difficulty. It can simply be a bad day, and you turn on the radio. I know that I have a very strong connection to my late grandmother, being part Polish. We would call our grandmother's babcia. And so my grandmother passed, it's been 11 years now, but the connection that I have with her is especially when I hear Time After Time come on the radio, it's just first of all, it's instant waterworks, but I know that my grandmother's speaking to me from the other side. And in an ironic twist of fate, Cyndi Lauper's now doing her farewell tour, and it's going to be coming through San Diego. So you're darn tootin' that I got tickets to that. On the thread of music, because I feel that this really, helps to connect with some of the threads of this Children's Book Spotlight series episode and encouraging kids to connect with their emotions and their feelings, have an open heart. I'm curious to your thoughts of how music does that. And I mean, you have to be so proud of your husband because he just won another Emmy Award.
He did.
Congratulations to Rickey.
He did.
He is, not only bringing joy into the lives of people, but he's bringing healing into the lives of people. What does that mean to you, being his beloved, being his partner, and seeing, especially in that element? And people may not necessarily look at music as healing. They might just be like totally in the flow and jam it out, and that's totally cool. But on that deep, visceral level, like he's helping people heal, ranging from children all the way to seniors.
Yes. We always say music is the highest vibration. It just has the power to bring everyone together. It has the power to make you forget about your problems. It's like whatever you need it to do. It's like your therapist. You find the right song and it's going to get you through. Music's another thing that really helped us get through COVID. I mean, we were having dance parties at the house. But my husband also has a similar mission to bring music to everyone. And he says this often in interviews, that it's just the highest vibration. It's the highest work you can do. And I've always said that he kind of operates, he's like a walking Buddha. And I think it's because he's like plugged in to like the vibration of music. And that's another thing. It's like everyone all over the world is connected by this. He actually just did the music for, was it Polaris, the last space shuttle that just went up, and they did like a song around the world where everyone was playing on this classical song. And I said to him, I was like, you are literally making music for outer space now, like to connect everyone. It's incredible.
That's amazing.
It is.
That's amazing. We are fully enjoying our time here at the Third Wheel Podcast Studio in West LA. Joining us as our featured guest here on episode number 225 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Closing out our 6-year anniversary celebration of the program is actress and children's author Rachel Montez Minor. And we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars. You can head on over to Rachel's official website, which we've included in the description below. You can also head on over to Amazon.com if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing. You can leave your 5-star reviews if you feel guided and inclined to do so for The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, in addition to See You on the Other Side. They are both now available. Again, one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Rachel is by leaving that 5-star review, letting her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and as we like to say here on the program, those who love great children's books. For all local libraries, children's and independent bookstores. If you walk in your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstore, as we like to say here on the program, they are the pillars of our community. If they do not stock their copies of See You on the Other Side or The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, make that kind recommendation. This is the little tip of the cap that we like to say here at the Children's Book Spotlight series. Let them know that you heard about Rachel's work right here on the Children's Book Spotlight series as part of our 6-year anniversary celebration. One of the favorite times of a Children's Book Spotlight series episode is when we crack the cover and dive into the pages of the books that we're sharing on the program, talking about the sun, the moon, and the stars. It's so interesting because my spiritual awakening began probably a little bit before the passing of my grandmother. I would probably say like 2010, 2011-ish, something like that. And I remember that's when I started to have a connection with the moon. But at first it was a little bit different because, it's been scientifically proven that whenever there's a full moon, and in fact, little known fact, when we're actually recording this Children's Book Spotlight series episode, lunar eclipse and full moon.
Yes.
Go figure. Perfect fitting, right? And so I thought back in the day when there was a full moon, I was kind of scared. I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen? Full moon. And it took me a while to get to this point where my heart opened, my heart softened, my soul felt that much more alive, and I started calling the moon La Luna. So every time I see that gorgeous silver disco ball in the sky, it's like, aha, here we go. It's going to be another amazing experience, and there's going to be wonderful and amazing things coming into my life. Talk to us a little bit more before we talk about your affinity for the sun, the moon, and the stars. Could you share with us a little bit more about the origin story? I know that you've already alluded to and mentioned the fact that your daughter has a big imprint on the both of these books, just as she has an imprint on your heart and in your life. Could you share with us the origin story of the sun, the moon, and the stars?
Yes. So the sun, the moon, and the stars came to me in a dream. And when I was writing everything down, I just immediately, I just knew it was a children's book. I also knew it was supposed to be the first one that came out because it just felt so universal. It basically discusses how all of us have the same light that the sun shines with, and the same light that the stars are made up of, and that we can glow like the moon, and like we are connected to the universe. Like, you are the universe, and the universe is you. And so this is actually the book that got me my multi-book deal with my publisher, Random House. This was kind of what we led with.
And the fact that, again, you're doing your part, there's a lot of divisiveness in the world. And kids are, especially now, they really want to fit in. And so they can experience things ranging from peer pressure and bullying, different sorts of things that they have access to that we didn't have access to when we were children, and not necessarily the highest vibration, so to speak. So in terms of helping kids to connect with the sun, the moon, and the stars, this is a question, it's like a very deep question that I had, but like when it comes to the sun, the moon, and the stars, what do you feel that they have to teach our children?
To share our love and shine our light the way they do. You know, like they're constantly there for us, the sun, the moon, and the stars, like constantly with us. And I always tell my daughter whenever we leave for school, are you ready to share your love and shine your light?
Love that.
And this is one of the messages of this book, is to, well, it's also kind of about dreams. There's like a second layer under it. It's not just about shining your light, but it's also that you can kind of dream anything into existence, that like thoughts are things. It's like a very simple concept. But like one of the girls in the book, it's based on 3 kids in there, but like she knows what she wants. And so you can be a singer, or you can be a pilot, or you can be a veterinarian. You know, you have the same power that's in the universe.
And I'm really glad that you're helping kids to be able to connect to that, because oftentimes, depending upon where you come from, what you've moved through during your life, oftentimes the old mindset is you have to make things happen, quote unquote. You have to make things happen, or you have to push, or you have to force, you have to effort. I mean, at times maybe like, you know, you have to put the time into something. But if something is one of my favorite expressions, and I'm not necessarily sure if I found this like in the Bible or if it was something from Dr. Wayne Dyer, but that which is meant for you will not pass you by.
That's right.
And that's something where, as you mentioned, like, you know, if your little one wants to be a pilot, if they want to be a veterinarian, like the sky really is the limit. And it's interesting because I was just actually speaking with a producer here in LA, I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. And like we had this conversation we struck up, like kids are coming into the world now knowing exactly what they want to do. Like they're starting to live their missions, their purpose at very young ages. And this is where, especially when kids move through challenges in life. And it's interesting because a large part of our work here at PR from the Heart and my own life is inspired by the late Fred Rogers, who, of course, the host of the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We feel his presence and spirit with us wherever we go. He would use the phrase, anything that is mentionable is manageable, and anything that is manageable is mentionable. And still, to this day, one of the most go-to resources for parents when they have to have the conversation with their little ones, or however the conversation ends up happening, if it's with, you know, their grandparents or a teacher, they go to the episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood where Fred talks about the death of his goldfish. And that's just still something, again, many years later. So again, there's many children's books in the world, but it takes a brave person to be able to write a book about death and grief and loss. As we crack the cover and dive into the pages of See You on the Other Side, one of the things that we always remind our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and our fellow shining stars, we never like to give away the whole kit and caboodle. That sounds like an expression that you'd hear on a Broadway show, right? Yeah, you don't give away the whole kit and caboodle. Okay, that sounds like Guys and Dolls. Maybe you'd hear it in Guys and Dolls,
it's
right?
Very that.
But first things first, talking about the origin story before we actually talk a little bit more about the book, why was it important for you to share this message at this time in the way in which you wanted to share it?
Well, I'm going to give full disclosure because it wasn't entirely up to me. We actually, Random House, my publisher, had a different book chosen to be the second book, which is now going to be the third book. And when COVID happened and all of the things, I had sent them everything that I had written. And so they knew about this book. And they were like, we want to revisit it. It's interesting. They actually had already bought a different one, and they switched it, which is very rare. My literary agent was telling me this like never happens, and we had to like redo the contract, and they switched the second book to See You on the Other Side because we all just felt like it was timely, and we knew it was going to be a harder sell because not a lot of people want to talk about this, especially in Western culture, I find. But to me, the message of the book is really more about the fact that love never ends. So it's really about connection, and I think that loss, that's one of like the beautiful things it can bring us, is it brings us back to the connection of love and the gift that love is. It also talks about change. And I know change is hard for adults as well as children. But this book reminds us that change is part of nature. Like, I know it sounds so simple, but like as the seasons change, so do we. And it can also really help with a big change in a family's life. Like if maybe there's a move or a new school or friends even moved away, it also really can help us get in the flow around the fact that change is nature's way. And it's one thing that we know is going to happen. It's like one guarantee is that life is going to change. Mm-hmm. So I'm really proud of the book. I love it.
In the 10 years that I've been doing PR publicity work for children's authors, the 6 years that I've been doing the Children's Book Spotlight series, it's interesting because a regular question that I get is, what genre of children's books tend to somehow find their way into your life? And at the top of the list is death and grief and loss. And the way in which you hit home on this message, I can't even put it into words. It's something that is very beautiful. It needs to be, your book needs to not only be read, but it needs to be experienced. And just the way in which you encourage kids to share how they're feeling. And that's something that's really important. You mention in the book, close your eyes and breathe deep. And the illustrations are powerful. And of course, we're doing our part to be able to share some of the illustration spreads as you're enjoying them throughout the course of episode number 225 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We as adults, we can sometimes want to compartmentalize and push stuff down, right? Sure, we'll just tend it and stuff it in this bottom drawer, the one that I'll get to in 10 years. And I really feel that when we take the time to encourage kids to be with their emotions, be with their feelings, we create the next generation that is not going to be needing the therapists or the anxiety medications or have the labels of the different things that they experience, so to speak. Coming from your perspective as a mother, a children's author, a fellow creative, a fellow soul, the significance of that, something that is really paramount, the thread of encouraging kids to be with their emotions and be with their feelings. Why now for that?
I think technology has benefits, but there's also, it's all kind of coming to the surface now, what it's doing to children and this younger generation. And I thank you so much for picking up on these messages from the book. You are very connected. It's lovely to talk to you. But also another big thing, and the remedy for this is spending time in nature, which the illustrator and I were so in line with. And you can see in the book, like everything is set in nature. I think children need more time in nature, more time in feelings, just more time. Like, why are we so rushed? So I think it's like a remedy for modern living. It's, to me, I couldn't function without like meditation and nature walks and the ocean. I'm such a California girl.
Well, I'm really glad that you're sharing this in the way in which you are, because one of the things that really is true is that the longer you wait to be with something, the more difficult and more challenging it can be to move through. So I remember in a dear friend of mine, Rickey Master, one of my coaches, his name is Patrick, lives in Quebec, really, really amazing guy. He's made a beautiful impact on my life. And I remember years ago, he said, the only way out is through. And when you're moving through, because it was quite challenging after the transition of my grandmother. And it was just like years of not being with emotions and feelings, and then just realizing that emotions and feelings, you can choose to look at them as your friends, like they have a message for you. And when you take the time to connect with the message and allow those emotions and feelings to move through you, then, you can get into the more, joyous states and, continue to have fun and enjoy life. But again, we don't necessarily want to be with the grief or the sadness or the anger, because it can feel like it's too much. And it's important, one of the things about your books as well is you're also reminding children not only that they can do anything, but how strong that they are.
Yes.
And if you can touch upon that thread as well too, because, sometimes again, kids, if they're moving through something, or if their home situation isn't necessarily what they're hoping for, they can feel like, well, maybe this kid's got a better life than me, or it's going to be easier for this person, or they may just, tend to feel a little bit weaker for whatever reason or another. Why do you believe that we need to communicate with our children to remind them of their inner strength, especially as we're moving forward into 2025? It's hard to believe like things are changing quite a bit and more rapidly than beforehand. Why do you feel that we need to remind them of their inner strength as they're venturing on and as we're venturing on?
I mean, we all need to be reminded of our inner strength.
Totally true.
What a beautiful gift to give a young child. And I think in See You on the Other Side, one of the things that came forward also was being able to connect to our guides, whether it's like, when you see a butterfly or a hummingbird, taking the time to realize like these coincidences and these little moments are their gifts. They're gifts reminding us that we're on the right path. And in the sun, the moon, and the stars, just again, that idea that we are part of the universe and we are meant to be here at this time. Everything's kind of predestined, and that we have the same power that like the sun has to make someone else feel good. And I talked about this in some of my readings when I was reading this book. It's also our responsibility to shine our light onto our communities, whether that's our family or our school or, when we're at camp. Like we can share our light and lift up all those around us. So I think when we stay connected like that, it does help us find our strength.
And especially when we are moving through grief, we're moving through loss, the importance of community. And it can be something as simple as your next door neighbor comes and, bakes some, like a nice casserole, and you allow yourself to be able to receive that. Or it's a matter of, going to a therapy group or to a men's group. Like it's being with your grief is actually a gift in many ways, shapes, and forms. I've alluded to this every now and again over the course of the past, let's say several months or so. But one of the things that I'm also proud to connect with based on your book. So I have my first children's book coming out in the spring.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it touches upon death and grief and loss. So I really feel a kinship with you and with all of the amazing authors who are doing their part to let children know that love really is eternal, that even though when we leave this earthly plane, that our spirit, that our heart, that our imprint can be left on in the heart, the mind of the little one. We are beginning to wind down our time with our featured guest here on episode number 225 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, actress and children's author Rachel Montez Minor. We are fully immersed in her brand new children's books, The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, and See You on the Other Side. They are now available. You can head on over to Rachel's official website, which we've included in the description below. You can also head on over to Amazon.com. And of course, be able to purchase, read, enjoy, and leave, if you feel inclined to do so, a 5-star review for The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, and See You on the Other Side. By doing that, you let Rachel know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. If you head on over to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstores, we like to say here on the program, they are the pillars of our community. If you do not see their copies of The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars and See You on the Other Side properly stocked and shelved, make that kind recommendation. Let them know that you heard about it right here on the Children's Book Spotlight series as part of our 6-year anniversary celebration. We always love to be able to provide some useful information in the form of tips, tools, strategies for parents, grandparents, caregivers, and educators to immediately extract after watching a Children's Book Spotlight series so they can implement it into their lives as well as the lives of their children, their grandchildren, their students. And two things tied into both of your books. And the first question that had came to mind is, there are many children that unfortunately walk this earthly plane that don't believe in their light. They have skills, they have gifts, they have talents, but they were told maybe it could just be subconsciously, or it could have been, a well-meaning teacher who kind of had an off day and maybe said something to the student, and the kid just kind of, takes it on kind of thing. What are some ways that we as parents and caregivers and custodians of our children, how can we do our part to help them shine their light? What are a few specific ways in which we can do that?
I think getting kids in nature is like number 1, 2, and 3.
Nature.
When I spend like the day in on a forest hike, for example, with my daughter, I mean, she is just so 100% herself. It's like everything just comes forward, and she's shining and she's giggling, and even the same with when you go to the ocean, and we all get our feet in the ocean. All of us we get so grounded in who we are, and it just reminds us of who we are without the noise. To me, that's a huge way. I think also connecting with family, like making sure we're spending enough time with them. In See You on the Other Side, there's a lot of spreads to help us stay connected to those that we're no longer with, whether it's they've passed on or perhaps they've moved. But you can, again, go on nature walks, or you can make a recipe together, cooking together. Anything you used to do with that person, kind of do it now. But I think staying connected to family and without the television on, right? I think spending time with our families also is huge with children.
Agreed.
I think we can't talk about that enough, that the time spent really it's like you're putting in to the account of who they are. You're just filling.
Agreed. And it's there are people who are undoubtedly watching the Children's Book Spotlight series that in some way, shape, or form, they're moving through something. The number of people that we've had the chance to connect with over the past 6 years alone doing this program saying, John, I'm going through, insert your thing here. Being an empath and a sensitive soul on mind of things, oftentimes I'm the kind of person where I could maybe have met the person for the first time and they will just share, I've moved through this. You can probably empathize with that as well, too. For those who are watching the program, who are moving through something, whether they're moving through something, whether their little one is moving through something, especially tied to grief and loss, what would be some words of comfort and support that you'd like to share?
I don't want to quote my book, but, change is nature's way, and this will always be true. But one thing is forever. I love you. I love you. I love you. Love never ends, and it's like a blanket. I've always said whenever I reread this book, it feels like what are those blankets? The weighted blankets?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a weighted blanket's being put on. It's so soothing. This idea that we are always connected to those we love, and they are with us. We do need to carve out some silence to feel that in those moments, being open to dreams. But yeah, I would say that time does help too, but open your heart to the fact that love is never ends. And this is such a universal message across all cultures, across the globe. It's what connects us to our humanity. And we all have experienced loss. And I think that's like another beautiful thing, even though sometimes people don't talk about it. It's like everyone has felt this.
Totally.
Even if it's a pet, we all have felt it, or a relationship or a friend, it's what connects us.
And it's interesting how things always come full circle on the Children's Book Spotlight series. We go back to the theme, the anthem of episode number 225, and that is keep your heart open. And even if it can seem challenging, even if that heart chakra is having some wonky feelings, right, you can do your part. See, I can use the word chakra on episode 225 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, and you totally get it, right?
Totally
it depends on who I'm interviewing. Sometimes people are like, John, what's a chakra? And
the theme of this, heart opening, I'm like, there couldn't be a better theme for me.
Totally. The two ways that we always close out every Children's Book Spotlight series episode, and we've mentioned his name once or twice, or maybe more than that, but of course we feel his presence and his spirit with us wherever we are, wherever we go, especially here on the Children's Book Spotlight series. And of course, we remember the late Fred Rogers. And in many respects, he did this on the neighborhood. He did this when he traveled across the country, when he visited sick children in hospitals, when he spoke at college commencement speeches, most notably when he received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmys shortly before he passed from stomach cancer. And he always kept the time, Rachel, whether it be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a full minute. He encouraged us to remember those who helped love us into being. And that was his way of saying, remember those, as I like to refer to them, earth angels, those people that were there on your path who reminded you that the sun, the moon, and the stars are within you, that you are bright like the sun, the moon, and the stars. And that even if you're moving through something that's challenging, that you're loved and you're special just the way that you are. Who are some of the people that you would like to publicly recognize here in episode number 225 of the Children's Book Spotlight series that have helped love you, Rachel Montez Minor, into being?
Into being. Beautiful. Obviously, my mom and dad, and my brother. My brother is 9 years older, so he had a big effect on my life because he was so much older. I just looked up to him. But my aunt, her name is Casey McDonald, and she was a kindergarten teacher for 40 years before she retired. And she helped my family out a lot because my parents were both professionals. They came home a bit late. So my aunt and my grandmother as well, when you've been speaking about your grandmother, my grandmother Vera Montez, they spent a lot of time with me, and they definitely loved me into being. All gratitude. Yes.
And your daughter and your husband as well, too.
Yes. Well, I didn't know if we were talking about childhood.
Oh, talking about whole earthly experience.
Well, then I should have led with my husband. My husband, Rickey Minor, I always say every night before bed, God bless Rickey Minor. He's a very special human being, very open, very kind, and he's made me a better person, as my daughter has. Motherhood has really, really changed me for the better. I feel so blessed to have them both.
Thank you for sharing those wonderful people with us. And it's long since been said, and I'll paraphrase Fred's words. He has shared that whether those individuals are near or far, whether they're walking this earthly plane or shining down from heaven, that they're smiling, that they're shining down on you, knowing the indelible impact that you've made and that you continue to make on those whose lives that you touch. We're also huge Disney buffs here at the Children's Book Spotlight series. And being in Los Angeles, we're just, we're kind of a stone's throw away from Disneyland. You still got to drive a little bit. But something about the Disney magic, it reminds us that we have the ability to bring to form and shape our dreams, our desires, our goals, our ambitions. We have the ability to fulfill our wishes. And we have the ability to help those in our lives, whether it be Earth families, soul family, friends, colleagues, clients, random passersby, fellow neighbors. We have the ability to help them bring to form and shape their dreams, their desires, their goals, their ambitions. We can help them fulfill their wishes. And so we go back to the year 1992. We remember the late Robin Williams. He voiced the genie of the lamp in Disney's animated classic Aladdin. I have to confess, I actually have a genie lamp that always goes with me wherever I go. And there's the part of me that's like, you travel some places and you forget the toothbrush or the shaving cream or something like that. It's like, Darn it, we forgot the genie lamp, but we're sharing one on screen. I am actually energetically holding this genie lamp that I've had literally for 10 years, no joke. And so we have a little segment that we like to call 3 Wishes. You have given freely from your heart for many years and many lifetimes, undoubtedly. So this is your chance to receive. So you're being given 3 wishes here in episode number 225 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Now, these wishes, they can be for you, they can be for your family, they can be for the children of the world. I think the only automatic disqualifiers, according to the genie of the lamp, you can't make someone fall in love with you. Don't have to worry about that. You're good on that. And you can't ask for more wishes. So what would your 3 wishes be?
Wow. This is a big one. Well, first, I feel like this first wish needs to be like right in here. I wished for these books to find their ways into the hearts of all families who need them. That's always been like my mantra sending this out. And I also wish for all, now I'm going kind of macro, for all like war and suffering to end. That's a huge wish. Mm-hmm. And I also wish for all children to feel safe and have food and be loved.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that as your 3rd wish, because growing up, 2 songs really hit me. I had one of those little Fisher-Price record players that were like in the suitcase and you'd open up and you put your records into.
They were fabulous.
The 2 songs that struck a chord with me were Foreigners, I Want to Know What Love Is. Now here I am as like a 5-6-year-old kid, like jamming out to Foreigner, right? And Whitney Houston's The Greatest Love of All. So the fact, that your husband had the opportunity to work with Whitney as well too. So again, things come full circle here on the Children's Book Spotlight series. Now, of course, even though Little Forrest, my pride and joy, my faithful furry friend and forever companion who just turned 2, again, not that long ago, thank you for all of your post-birthday wishes for Little Forrest. We kind of like to share the fact that if you remember when you were, again, depending upon what age you are, in the 80s and 90s, if you were a movie buff, you remember the late Siskel and Ebert. And when they loved the movie, they gave it 2 thumbs up. Well, one of the fastest growing endorsements in the world of children's literature is when Little Forrest enjoys a children's book and he proudly gives it 2 paws up. So Little Forrest is proudly giving 2 paws up for The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars and See You on the Other Side. Again, that is one of the fastest now growing endorsements in the world of children's literature over the course of the past now nearly 2 years. So again, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars. Once again, you can head on over to Rachel's official website, which we've included in the description below. We've also included Rachel's social media platforms. Keep the conversation going post-Children's Book Spotlight series as well, too. If Amazon.com is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can, of course, leave 5-star reviews for The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars and See You on the Other Side. Of course, if you feel guided and inclined to do so, that's one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Rachel is by leaving that 5-star review or 5-star reviews, letting her know that she's doing wonderful and much-needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. If you head on over to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstore, and they do not stock their copies of See You on the Other Side and The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, make that kind recommendation. This is what I'm doing, the little tip of the cap here at the Children's Book Spotlight series. Let them know that you heard about Rachel's empowering reads right here on the Children's Book Spotlight series as part of our 6-year anniversary celebration. Now, when we hear the trolley, that means that it is time to go, but fear not. There are many more magical trolley stops. Many of you at home are watching in your library or the den, or if you're working out, wherever you enjoy and consume the Children's Book Spotlight series, you're saying, John, Rachel, I'm a bit saddened because the 6-year anniversary celebration has come to an end. Fear not. We're still continuing on because we step into our autumn season even further, and then one of our favorite times of the year, the Children's Book Spotlight series holiday season celebration. So if you are a children's author, if you are a middle grade author, and you would love to share your inspiring story and the release of your brand new book, children's or middle grade, on a forthcoming edition of the Children's Book Spotlight series, just as Rachel had the opportunity to do here today on episode number 225 of the program, you can head on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, or you can connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen. Instagram and Facebook and X, all at PR From the Heart. We like to give a little tip of the cap because we'll also be seeing him shortly. If you are a fan of the Children's Book Spotlight series and you are new to our neighborhood, we actually have a sister show. Did you know about that? If you remember Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, then darn tootin' you remember Mr. McFeely. We know him and we love him as David Newell. Just in a few short months, we're going to be celebrating the, 4-year anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. That is, of course, the official children's book review program here at PR From the Heart, where David and I, as a little tip of the cap to his character, Mr. McFeely, we deliver heartfelt reviews of the newest children's books from the shining stars in the world of children's literature. We're looking forward to connecting with David in literally just a couple of weeks, as we are going to be recording our in-studio episodes of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast at the Center for Media Innovation in downtown Pittsburgh. So you'll be able to spend the holiday season with us in the city, the birthplace of our favorite neighbor, Mr. Rogers. So if you were a children's author and would love for David and I to deliver a heartfelt review of your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast in 2025, you know where to connect with us via our official website and social media platforms, all at PR From the Heart. And as we are continuing still through the end of the year, the 10-year anniversary celebration of PR From the Heart, we have been blessed and fortunate and honored to represent some of the top names in the world of children's literature, ranging from John Parra to Catherine Roy to Sharon, Lois, and Bram. And you'll be hearing more about Sharon and Bram, as of course they are now fully in the midst of their national media tour for the release of their new vinyl, Elephant Showstoppers. You remember Skinnamarink Dinky Dink, Skinnamarink Do We Love You? That's one of the songs that we always go into the flow with here on the Children's Book Spotlight series. But there are many children's authors whose journeys are just taking flight. Or if you're frustrated and wondering, man, I really need some support to get this book out into the world, because the world is changing and it's changing very fast. And it's so important, especially if you are a creator, that you know that the support is there for you. So again, let us see how we can be of service to you. You can head on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, schedule your courtesy connection call, and let us see how we can help your dreams take flight in 2025 and beyond. One final time, you can head on over to Rachel's official website, which we've included in the description below. You can also head on over to Amazon.com. Be sure to leave your 5-star reviews for The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, in addition to See You on the Other Side. By leaving those 5-star reviews, you let Rachel know that she's doing wonderful and much-needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. Again, remember, you head on over to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstore. If they do not stock their copies of See You on the Other Side and The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, you don't have to get upset, right? Remember, be with the emotions. You can say, I'm frustrated that they don't have Rachel's books, but I can do something about it. You make that gentle recommendation. You let them know that you heard about them right here on the Children's Book Spotlight series. Raise your hand if you have had fun on episode number 225 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We see hands from Rachel, hands from myself, hands from the production team here at the Third Wheel Podcast Studio, who did an incredible job helping us to bring this episode to life for all of you. Hands from the little ones on screen. As we like to say, that means mission accomplished, job well done. If these messages that we have shared with you today, See You on the Other Side, The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, the importance of keeping your heart open, being with your emotions, being with your feelings, knowing the fact that if you are moving through even the most difficult of circumstances, especially tied into death and grief and loss, we hope that now you feel a little bit lighter in the process. And so if you feel that you have learned something, you've taken something away from this very special trolley stop, and we hope that you have, one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Rachel, for us here at PR From the Heart in the Children's Book Spotlight series, is to subscribe to our official YouTube channel and to share this very special trolley stop that you have been enjoying. That is episode number 225 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Join the more than 20,000 subscribers via our official YouTube channel. And most importantly, share this episode with someone in need, because Lord knows that there is someone in your life that is moving through something, especially tied to death and grief and loss, to let them know that they are loved, They are special just the way that we are. And it's interesting because we always close out every Children's Book Spotlight Series episode officially. Again, we feel his presence, his spirit. We mentioned his name probably like half a dozen times, maybe more. But did you know that Mr. Rogers weighed 143 pounds during his entire natural adult life? In his own private numerology, he was reminding us of something very important. Now, as I like to say, maybe in a past life, he may have met Ponce de Leon because, I mean, come on, grown man, 143 pounds for his entire natural adult life. There's one letter in I, there's one letter in I, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. So that was Fred's way in his own private numerology of reminding us of our inherent worth and our inherent value. As a little tip of the cap to Mr. Rogers, and thanks to Rachel being very kind enough to join us here in studio today, we share our favorite 3 numbers to close out the 6-year anniversary celebration of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, and that is 243. There's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you. So we are reminding you of your inherent worth and your inherent value. We see your skills. We see your gifts. We're reminding you that life has got your back, that life loves you, that we like you, that we love you just the way that you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, that you are perfect, that you are loved, that you are special, just the way that you are. And so we want to thank you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, especially during our 6-year anniversary celebration. We really appreciate all of the loving support, the feedback, especially over these past several weeks. We want to thank you for your continued support of children's authors and illustrators, such as Rachel, who again are doing wonderful and much-needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. For the pillars of our community, local libraries and children's and independent bookstores. But above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. So we hope that you again have enjoyed the 6-year anniversary celebration of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. And we look forward to seeing you once again for many more magical trolley stops to come during the autumn, during the holiday season, and into 2025. So thank you once again for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.